guys, this is Austin
and Jon,
and welcome to another episode of the Meatgistics podcast. Today is another special episode. We have a guest with us. We got Kurt Carter sitting over here. You'll hear from him in just a second, but we always have to get to the most important thing of the day. Sorry, Kurt. The beer of the day. So for the beer of the day, I'll start out and we'll run down the table here. I brought the best beer on the planet.
It's a lot of alliteration there. I like that.
The best IPA, the best beer all around. This is my go-to. Walnut River High Beam IPA. This one is just, it's a staple. It's perfect. You can drink it anytime. If I don't know what I want to drink, I'm going to drink one of these. There's other IPAs that are good, but this one, hands down, this takes the cake. It's from El Dorado, Kansas, so it's a nice local and small brewery too. But all around, I just love this beer.
Calling an IPA, any IPA, the best beer in the world is, right there, you were wrong. Immediately. It's a stout, a porter, something else. It is not an IPA. There is no way.
I think you're in the minority, Jon.
I will take a porter over an IPA any day of the week.
So now you're in the minority, sir. And IPAs aren't even the best hot weather beer. Sours are the best hot weather beer. So I brought yet another Dogfish Head beer. This is Sea Quench Ale. It's a session sour that's absolutely delicious and easy drinking. Downside is it's 4.9. I noticed you didn't mention yours. What is that?
7.7.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah, it's the perfect.
That is good.
It's higher, but it's not too high. It's just, it's the best all-around beer.
I am drinking Axes and Oars. It's a Kansas collaboration series through your Walnut Valley and the Norseman Brewing Company in Topeka, coming in at a nice 7%.
That's not bad. So what type of beer is that? What does it kind of taste like?
Tastes like a good IPA. Not the best IPA, which of course is the Calling by Boulevard Brewing Company. But yours is a good IPA.
Boulevard does have some good beers. I think the Calling it's a little heavier. Is that a single or a double?
It's a double IPA. And the best stout is from Boulevard called the Dark Truth Stout.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't had that.
I do like that one. That one is very good.
I will have to try that. Tank 7 is a one I go to all the time. No,
Tank 7's delicious.
Very good.
It's very nasty.
Well, farmhouse ales are awesome.
We've got some differing opinions on beer here today. All right. Second thing, I want to see what those snack sticks are.
Do you? Because you're not going to guess them right.
Okay.
So,
all right.
So our mystery meat segment is up next, and I had to make something for Jon today. By proxy, Kurt, you're invited to enjoy this competition as well. But basically, the whole deal is you have to try to taste it and figure out what seasoning we used. So they're both kind of taking a bite, smelling it. Kurt's getting kind of deep into this. I have a feeling Kurt is going to win this. I think that Kurt should hold his opinion until Jon is done. We'll get an opinion from Jon here. But this needs to happen for Jon for him to catch back up to me, because I'm ahead 1-0 right now. We have both lost like 7-8 times or something. But I am the only one that has guessed right out of like the 9 or 10 times total we've done this.
But I also think you lie. I'm going to start demanding you keep packaging. No, I'm just kidding. All right. It's not, because immediately, as soon as I bit into it, I thought it was you went one too many times to the well, and it was fajita again, but there's cheese in it.
No, you can't go back and figure out what you think you've made recently, because I very well might have just pulled these out of the freezer, and it's something that you or Dylan have made in the last 6 months. So
I don't have a good guess. I really don't.
It's really going to be hard to guess just because I pulled these out of the freezer at the last second. I forgot I was in charge of mystery meat today. And so I literally ran out of the room, ran to the freezer, threw these in the microwave for about a minute. And so they're some spots are kind of cold and frozen. Some spots are kind of hot and warm. So it kind of throws you off with the temperature. But
wow. Is it gigawatt?
No, it is not.
Gigawatt's way hotter than this.
Is that the hottest one? I always forget.
Yeah.
This isn't hot. I don't think gigawatt's hot either, though, but I'm not picking up really any distinguishable flavor, just a little heat.
Pepper.
Yeah.
Like there's a good, decent amount of pepper. So yet again, I'm going to guess, I think for the third time, But it's not. I know it's not Willie's, but it tastes a little bit like Willie's.
No, because there's no chili powder in it.
All right. I'm going to say you tried to go back to the well, and this is fajita again.
No,
Is it
you're
Willie's?
wrong.
Oh, no, it's not Willie's.
Kurt, do you want to put in an official guess?
Gosh, no. If it was abroad, I'd almost swear it's Philly, but
So, John, you're going to be really mad because we talked about this one already. And we talked about if we missed this, that it was going to just be really bad
No, it's
for
not.
whoever did.
No, it's not.
This is Willie's.
Oh,
Yeah. Willie's with cheddar. I have no idea if there's encapsulated citric acid in it or not, but
because Willie's has a chili powder.
I had that. He talked me out of it.
Willie's has more chili powder than this.
hold on, I need to taste it to see.
Could we be dealing with a mislabel?
That's Willie's. It is just, it's so tangy. Like that, yeah, it's very tangy. I really kind of wonder how much encapsulated citric acid we used on this batch. Because
Well,
it was a lot.
I'm furious now, and
I apologize,
I'm not
John.
talking the rest of this
It has
podcast.
to have an asterisk by it.
We can go check the label. It's still in the break room trash.
No, I agree that was Willie's. It's what I thought it was.
I don't like Willie's. I'm not a fan of that stick, but I'm more of a fan of that stick than I am of Willie's because I can't stand Willie's.
Who is not a fan of Willie's?
Me?
Why?
I don't like it. I like chili powder. I don't like Tex-Mex.
Oh, that's right. You hate Tex-Mex. I always forget
but
that.
I do love chorizo. Figure that out.
Yeah, how does that work? Because that's like perfect for it.
Mostly, yeah. I've got some snack sticks in there. I made Mexi chorizo snack sticks a long time ago. I don't know if you ever got to try them. We'll make sure you get some of those. Should have done that as my next.
I
one.
want to
Never would've
know
gotten that.
what the date on that label is.
It might be old. After we're done here, or when we get to a break, we'll go check the label and make sure that everything's kosher and it's not like a 3-year-old batch of snack sticks. But
Snack sticks are fine after 3 years.
No,
well,
no,
yeah,
no.
but it'll affect the
It'll
flavor.
affect the flavor.
They're still fine though.
Oh yeah, they're still fine. But either way, so we're done with that. I am still ahead in that competition and series. So.
My fault. All my bad.
Agreed.
But let us bring Kurt back into this discussion and who Kurt Carter is. I guess I didn't even tell people what your title is or what you do here. Kurt, are you a janitor? Are you? I'm kidding. What do
I'm
you do?
inventory.
That has been a running joke for a lot of years because Kurt is one of the oldest employee. Not well. I phrased that the wrong way. I don't know if Kurt is the oldest employee or not, but longest serving employees here. The 3 longest people here are Brett, my dad, Steph, my aunt, and Kurt. But technically, Kurt and Steph were both working for either my grandpa, who started the business, or Charlie, who my dad and grandpa bought Holly Harneds when Kurt was working for Holly Harneds. So, Kurt, what were some of the early days like, and take that path up to now, and what do you do now, and how's that kind of travel and history been there?
It's incredible where we started and where we are. The company before, if you could imagine, we packaged all our own seasoning. So if you wanted a 2-pound bag, if you wanted a half-pound bag, we bagged it. Honestly, we started this company as delivery people, because that's how the business started out. Customers would call, we'd put together routes, and we'd take stuff out to them.
Yeah.
And if we sold a knife, if we sold them a glove, we were in hog stinking heaven because it was the greatest thing on earth. We are ambitious, we are enthusiastic, but we honestly had no idea what we were getting into. One of the great things was when we got into Excalibur Seasoning, because then we started to get educated.
Yeah.
And we learned more and we became dangerous. But you could always tell what the topic of the day was. Don would tell us about putting the same grinder plate with the same knife, and Brett and I would preach that ad nauseum. And then the next lesson we would learn would be put the saw blade 1 dime's width from the back wheel. And that would be the next thing we would preach ad nauseum. But as we got bigger and better, then we became an asset. And it was a really neat transition when we became the company people were asking questions of. And we actually stopped delivering. And we began to see the value that we had in the success of our customers.
Yeah. So what do you think is one of the biggest differences from the early days to now? I think
Besides my hairline and my weight.
That's an acceptable answer, but if there's something different.
I think now it's just how stinking big we are. I mean, a 5-pound bag of spice to a customer is a 5-pound bag of spice, but when you're doing that to 500 different customers, I mean, we had a green cart that was 4 foot by 3 foot. And if that thing was full when it went to UPS, we were high-fiving.
Yeah.
Now we've got a semi parked out on the dock that we pack our stuff in.
Yeah, and that thing gets loaded every day.
Yeah.
But the coolest thing is, as big as we are, there's still that same sense of enthusiasm if we sell a knife, or there's that same sense of accomplishment if we tell somebody to put the same plate with the same knife. And that's a factor that hasn't changed, that I'm proud of. That's really, I think, what establishes Walton's is whose they are, whether it's commercial or retail. Is there a good human source of contact with the industry?
Yeah, because in the end, it is all about helping. Whether we're helping clean up beers that we spill,
I check the pronoun.
I just want it to be known that I'm not the only one to party foul and spill a beer now.
Yeah,
because I did that a couple episodes ago.
You overpoured, though. I feel like this is a little more forgivable.
I couldn't see it. It was underneath the
That's why I'm saying
stupid
this is more
microphone.
forgivable. Plus, these are brand new microphones, or microphone stands at least.
Yeah.
But no, it is all about helping people, whether that's a commercial customer, helping them with their process, making a better finished product to go to market, or helping a retail guy who's doing 10 pounds of snack sticks get the most out of his purchase. It's all about that. And that did all start from you, Brett. I mean, that's where most of the knowledge came from.
Yeah. When we talked about the early days in some of the previous episodes, we said that you and Brett literally built the company off your backs because you guys were delivery guys. You were salesmen, but you delivered at the same time. And that had to be a rough thing to go through.
Brett always marked my ageism by gifts for delivery. So as I got older, he got better about two-wheelers. I remember once we got a drum dolly that helped us carry the 55-gallon drums. I think when I turned 50, we got a box truck that had a lift instead of an old rental truck that had the ramp.
Uh-huh.
And of course, he always reminded that these were necessary for my old age.
That's perfect. That makes me feel slightly better seeing some of the progression there, because I remember when I would go out with Dad on routes when I was a little kid, and he would just like drop a 55-gallon drum like out of the back of the truck, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then he'd have to manhandle the thing to get it inside. So I can picture you as the old man doing that, and I feel even worse about. No, I'm just kidding, Kurt.
Those have got to weigh a ton. I mean, not a ton, obviously.
Well, 9 gallons a pound, or 9 pounds a gallon, and 55 gallons.
It could be more if it's because that's like what water is.
Right,
so if it was like
but
sodium
we had
lactate,
customers
it's thicker,
who carry sawdust up 2 flights of stairs. I mean, we did everything. It was full service beyond your imagination. There were customers that we'd spend the night in the town where their locker was because they'd have us stay until 8 or 10 o'clock fixing equipment.
Yeah.
But we'd go over to their house for dinner, have a drink, then come back and fix equipment. I mean, but that's what we did.
Yeah.
And it's cool. It's cool to look back and the relationships that we made. We still have them. A lot of those people have retired and the lockers have gone to other generations, but there's still that friendship we made, go into their house for spaghetti, then back to their plant to work on a slicer.
So I have 2 questions for you. One's quick, one's longer. What would you say might be the number on the number of commercial processors that you know across the country? Hundreds, thousands?
Lots.
But
it's cool. I'm meeting new people every day, and especially because of this pandemic, we're getting people that aren't even set up in our system. And when I have someone call me that's not even in the system, that's been in business, that's mind-boggling because I just assumed everybody was.
Yeah.
It's neat the number of people I know when I see them at large conventions, but I think Austin can tell you that I can no more tell a person their name than I could what planet they're from.
So the next question is what is your typical customer like? Because like obviously you're not doing the retail side, you're doing the commercial side. So what kind of customer are you dealing with on the daily basis?
A lot of times we deal with the owner, and he still's the man with blood on his hands. There's still the vast majority of our owners are still cutting meat. They still have a lot of direct involvement with the locker, with the day-to-day, with what's on the shelf, what's in the cooler, what's in the freezer. Like us, they started in this business young, and they know all their customers by face and name. They take a lot of pride in their work. Right now, everybody's taxed and maxed. It's just crazy. But it's neat because not all of them, but a lot of them still understand the personal value of a peddler.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that consideration and respect you get, especially when they're asking you a question that I don't think you see in a lot of other types of businesses.
Yeah, definitely.
For this entire crazy last 4 or 5 months, what's the one thing that's happened business-wise that's just shocked you? And not just the fact that we've been so busy and our customers have been so busy. Has there been something that's sold 10 times as much that you thought?
Everything.
Just all of it?
I mean, it's crazy. We have customers scheduling hogs through 2021. This is the time of year when people are borrowing money from their kids to pay their electric bills in these lockers, and they're flush. But there's things that you're seeing. I mean, we're seeing people not getting meat now.
Yeah.
We're seeing the guys that don't slaughter having trouble consistently getting combos in for processing. I talked to a customer today where his employees are actually getting a little antsy that bonuses aren't getting it. They want to take a day off instead of 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's this whole thing has just been, I hate to use the cliche, a roller coaster, but it's just crazy how fast everything changes.
And we've said it many times, but with so many more people going to these small and medium-sized processors and hopefully realizing the extra attention they get, a little bit better of the cut, if they can keep just 1 in 5 of those customers, that's an enormous boost to their business.
I've always said, if you're not cutting your own meat, go to a locker or go to a meat market. Go to the guy with blood on his hands. It's a guy who knows what he's selling. He can tell you where it comes from. He can ask you how thick you want it. He can ask you how fat you want it. These guys are the people you should be going to for your proteins. I know when we quit butchering, we started buying locker meat and we never went back.
Yep.
Last thing, is there anything over the years that you just have to get off your chest? Anything you want to highlight, or like a funny experience, or just something that is just, you got to tell everybody?
Family friendly.
I can't get the tattoo that the barcode the Waltons tattooed on my ass off.
It is a company policy that all inventory gets barcoded. So I'm sorry, but we had to do it.
I've been an indentured servant ever since they tattooed that thing on my rump.
No, and so everybody knows we are joking. Kurt is one of our longest employees, and we love him like family. So
they just put us RFID chips in us now. No more tattoos.
John has one in his head.
The nice thing they did do is they cut a hole in the ceiling, so now I can differentiate between day and night for my little hole.
I need one of those in my office, please. So for the next segment today, we have John's favorite topic of the day because it has alliteration in the title.
Love that.
I feel like we've said that 1,000 times. So hopefully we're making everyone sick of hearing this. But
1,000
next up,
more will be okay.
Meat Matters. So for the first thing on Meat Matters, I really like this one. I'll let you two kind of talk out a little more on this because Jon found the first topic, and when he shared it to Kurt, Kurt actually had some experience or knows some people that has stuff like this. So a meat vending machine. I wish I had one by my house.
So the article I saw had it from Rochester, New York, which is where I lived right before I came down here. And it's a place he was doing it for, he was planning on doing it anyways, but he bumped it up because of COVID. So he was filling up meat vending machines. He didn't announce it. He did nothing. He was put it in there on a Friday and was planning on making like a social media post all about that on Monday. He said he was checking his security cameras by, 9 o'clock on Friday night. There were tons of people there just buying cuts right out of that meat vending machine. I mean, it is a genius idea.
One of my friends, RJ's Meats up in Wisconsin, was one of the first people in the United States to buy one. They're common in Europe. And he was one of the first, and he has two now, one fresh, one frozen. And Santa Claus came and visited his vending machines. On his security camera, a full regalia, the Santa Claus came up to the vending machine and bought a pack of bacon, waved it at the security camera and left. But people posed for selfies with it. I have another customer, Jason, and he actually has integrated his with eggs. He has full meals in there. You get bacon, you get eggs. He has other products, and he says it's amazing how fast that stuff sells out.
That's so cool.
Full cooked eggs?
No. Dozen raw eggs.
Okay.
Fresh.
That's a genius idea. You said you think he was one of the first. When was it? Do you know?
2 years ago, maybe.
So it is, no matter what, it's still very recent.
Oh, yeah, because it was so new that actually we all laughed until he started cleaning that machine out. And the vendor who sold that machine actually started coming to the national convention. And I know other people have bought it, but personally, I know two people that have it. They've been very happy with the machines.
Yeah, the article I read said that he hadn't announced it yet. And he spent all day Saturday and Sunday there just cutting, kept refilling, and just cutting just for that. I mean, that is awesome. My fear on that is, does it start to take away where you go in, you talk to your butcher, you talk to your meat cutter, and they give you some, advice on how to cook it, what you should do with a specific cut of meat. That's my own. I mean, part of what makes our industry so personable and good is the interactions we have.
These are after hours. These are weekends that most of the guys do their business there. People going out to the lake, they're shut down anyway. RJ did tell me, though, that he has regular customers that when they want snack sticks, if they want jerky, they just go to the machine and get it so they don't go inside. But a lot of the business is people on weekends going to the lakes, going camping, and they know they can go up to the machine and get bratwurst or bacon. And
you're in my opinion, anyways, even if you buy something out of a machine that's from a small to mid-sized processor, it's still a better product than what you're getting from Walmart or your other grocery store, right? Like you maybe you miss out some of the personal experience, but most of the time you're still going to get a better product because it was someone who took the time to put a little more craft and effort into it instead of just some mass-produced thing. Actually, and I'm going to rant a little bit, I bought a pack of bacon from Kroger, Dillon's, the other day, and it was the junkiest thing I've ever bought. It was, whoever was running the slicer that day probably needs to find a new occupation because it was a mess.
I've had
the
same
bacon.
thing
The
recently.
bacon looked horrible,
Mhm.
but then it was sliced like bad. It was not good.
I tell people all the time, when you're dealing with a locker, you represent a much larger percent of their business than you think you do. If you go to a chain store, you're just one of 1,000 people that are walking through, buying the crap off the market, filling their carts. But if a locker makes one customer mad and they tell 5 other people, that's a huge percentage of their livelihood.
Yeah.
That's why they pay so much attention to detail. That's why the quality of the stuff they put in their counter is fresher. It's a higher grade. There's more attention to detail. I remember as a kid going into the lockers and they had the pork shaped like a pig and they had the ground beef shaped like a cow, and the bologna was all fresh made, and they cut it to whatever thickness you wanted. I mean, it was, and you're starting to see that attention to detail in lockers and meat markets now.
Yeah.
So growing up in upstate New York, we had a deli that was unbelievable. I mean, it was known for most of the state. And they would slice your roast beef till you could literally see through it. And when I ask for that at a grocery store, I get a look like, ugh. Like, all right, well, you know what? I'll go to a local butcher. I don't know if we're wanting to promote them or not.
Yeah.
Yoder's.
Yeah, that's
and
fine.
They'll do basically whatever I ask them to do and just say, yep, we'll get that done. No problem. So there is a huge difference in attention to detail and customer service from a small to medium-sized butcher like Yoder's to, a massive chain like Dillon's.
I have a customer who has 2 meat saws in his retail area for cutting smoked pork chops and fresh pork chops and steaks.
Keeps them separate.
And you have a little, well, you have to, but you have a little gauge, little wooden blocks that are different thicknesses. And you pick the thickness that you want. They'll cut your steaks. They'll cut your pork chops that thickness for the fresh. Same with the smoked. If you want a 1-inch thick smoked pork chop, they'll slap it out and cut it exactly the way you want. And he charges a lot more than the chains do. And it's a lot better product. There's people standing in line.
Yeah, definitely.
For anyone who wasn't really thinking about it like I wasn't, obviously you would have to have 2 different saws. You can't cut raw meat on cooked meat. So
I wonder if there's a way around that. Like, totally off topic. Could you run like a ultraviolet and a infrared light above it and kill anything on it? Like, food for thought. Don't have to answer it today, but
And don't go around looking at delis, but you're really not even supposed to cut cheese and meat on the same slicer.
True.
Oh yeah, that definitely happens.
yeah. So the next topic, I am not even going to do this one. This one is John's because I'm not going to pronounce this and butcher it. I'm going to let him do it.
Campylobacter. So I was reading this. This is now what they're saying is causing the majority of foodborne illnesses in the U.S. So that was never my understanding. I always thought it was E. coli.
I always thought it was neurovirus.
So
And
how long has it been this?
Candy's been around forever.
Why don't we hear about it?
But my personal feeling is that we have reduced our immune systems. I mean, Campy's been around forever. We butcher on the farm all the time, and we don't follow the guidelines that all the poultry industry follows now. We don't get sick. One of the things that they tell you not to do is, and people do all the time, is they rinse their chickens. They're splattering that water, all the snot over the place. Right. It's just cut it, cook it, wash your hands, wash your counter.
Why would people wash chicken? I've never done that.
It's a cultural thing.
Okay.
It is. Some do, some don't. I had never heard of it until eating at a neighbor's house one day, and they literally wash their beef. Like, what are you doing? Like, well, you have to wash your meat. I'm like, no, you don't. You absolutely don't. You're about to cook that. It'll be fine. So it's a cultural thing. Something they grew up with, I imagine. But if I'm not mistaken, from what I read on Campy, you just called it Campy?
Yeah.
What I read on that is it's very rarely fatal. So maybe that's why we don't hear as much about it.
It's a very unpleasant diet plan, but it won't kill you. But again, I think there's a lot of it has to do with the crowded conditions. I think it has a lot to do with the large processing areas. But again, bacteria is everywhere. That's what I say. Wipe off the counters, wipe off your knife, wash your hands. Don't wear gloves. Everybody that puts on a pair of gloves and handles raw meats think they're Superman. And then they handle the faucet, they handle the skillet, they pick up their knife, they take off their gloves and say, what a good boy I am. Just wash your hands, wash your surface, cook your food, use a thermometer. Life is good.
So for anyone who doesn't know what he's talking about is you put on gloves, you pick up some raw meat, put that down, you go touch something else. Well, you've moved any bacteria that was on that raw meat to whatever else you've touched. So I often say sometimes I when I'm processing here, I just feel terrible for, taking off gloves and throwing them out, taking off gloves and throwing them out.
It's what you have to do.
But it's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's what you're supposed to. Now, there was, when this whole COVID stuff started, I will not lie, I was washing my hands with gloves on in between. I'm like, we're low on gloves. I don't think I can take these off yet.
That's a good point because, we got very low.
Very low on
Yeah.
gloves. But so gloves are a good thing if they're used correctly.
So have either of you been to like a Subway, another sub shop, or any restaurant really? And they're preparing your sandwich, you're wearing gloves, and then they go grab your credit card, touch the cash register, do this, go touch the toaster oven, and go back in line and start making your sandwich again. It's like, why do you have on a pair of gloves?
What's the point?
That irks me, and I never say anything because I don't want to get spit in my food, but like, would that be appropriate to tell someone, hey, you're not following proper glove protocol? Like,
No, I don't think so.
Only
Okay.
after you have your food in the bag.
okay.
Yeah, I'd let that one slide for sure.
So does anyone else see it though?
Oh,
All the time.
All
Okay.
the time.
I want to make sure I'm not the only one.
Definitely wouldn't have noticed it before I started working here, though. Like, it just wouldn't have even registered in my mind that was an issue. Would have thought, yep, they have gloves. They're all right. So,
Yeah.
because you do tend to think that it's the person that makes the meat dirty, not the meat that makes everything else dirty. So, I mean, it's just general thought. Moving on, the next one, I don't know how deeply we want to get into this. I'm thinking probably just real surface level.
I also changed this, FYI. So I don't know if I told you, but you had the wrong. You had a couple things mixed around.
Okay.
So do you see where we're going here?
No, it's for broiler chickens.
Yeah. So okay? Hold on. Never mind. Just continue. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, did I have those two combined?
Yes.
I had those two combined.
Yes.
Gotcha. Yes, now I see.
Okay.
All right. So
if the viewing audience could see what I just saw, you know how when you watched Bob Newhart, you drank a beer every time he said, "Hi, Bob"? If I drank a beer every time one raised an eyebrow or looked at the other like, "What the hell are you talking about?" I'd be soused right now.
they've been with us enough. They understand probably our little lingo, and
Sometimes we have a telepathic thing going on, and it takes a second to kind of click in and engage, and then when it's there, we got it.
Their telepathy is rotary.
basically Austin goes, "This isn't right," and I start thinking, "What did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong." Oh, that's what I did wrong. But anyways, no, the DOJ is looking at an antitrust lawsuit over price fixing for broiler chickens. Now, that's not the only thing that's going on with lawsuits and meat processors. The beef industry is looking for price fixing also, and it's enormous guys they're going after. It's Tyson Foods, it's JBS, it's Cargill, and National Beef.
80% of the market.
And I can tell you from this side of it that feeder cows were going for nothing. And this was before COVID. That feeder cows were going for nothing and the market was going up.
Yeah, and we did talk about that either on the last or
True, yeah.
previous episode. We're seeing record prices on both fronts. Cattle price is in the pits. Like, ranchers are getting nothing for cattle right now. But when you go to the store to buy beef, they're record high prices. It's insane. Like, they're the highest, maybe not totally record, but for the last like 15, 20 years, it's the highest prices we've seen at the grocery store, meat market, wherever, but the lowest prices that a rancher or whoever is selling to a meat processor for.
And so we quickly covered this last time, and again, we won't go deep into it, but for anyone who has the capacity, now is the all-time best time to buy your own cattle and slaughter it. It's tough. It's not going to be easy because you're not going to have all the specialized equipment. You're going to lose some stuff for sure, but it's still going to be cheaper than buying it all retail.
Our family has butchered 25 hogs and we're getting ready to do 5 more because the pork prices, and now we're having to hot bone them because you can't take them to locker to kill and chill. They don't have any space. But I'm telling you right now, the single greatest sausage on the face of God's earth is whole hog hot bone sausage.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what we're doing now. Hams, bacons, everything's going into sausage. But when you buy a 300-pound hog for $100, it sucks to be the guy that's selling you the hog. But if you've got the freezer space, hot bone it, stuff it in a casing, stuff it in a bag, and away you go.
So, Kurt, you're going to know the right term on this, but I'm going to throw one out and see if I'm on the right page as you. But when you say hot bone, is that the same thing as like pre-rigor pork?
No.
What makes a difference there?
Pre-rigor pork is a hot bone pork, but it's treated with salt.
Okay.
As a preservative. When you hot bone, it's exactly what it sounds like. I mean, you shoot them, you stick them. When they're through kicking, you skin them, you bone it out, season it, stuff it in the casing or stuff it in a bag and freeze it, and you're done.
Okay. So the pre-rigor is going to be adding salt and then maybe chilling and then further processing?
And generally, pre-rigor pork is sold as pre-rigor pork. Pre-rigor pork has enough salt in it that you actually have to adjust your seasoning formulation to compensate for the salt that's in it.
Gotcha.
Like, Shemaikas buys, or I don't know if they still do, all their stuff was pre-rigor. And also...
Right now, sometimes getting pre-rigor pork is difficult. So some people are having to add salt back into their formulas to compensate for the lack of salt in the pre-rigor.
Yeah, tough. Sorry about that, Phil.
Good reason to call up Kurt Carter and ask him what to do, because between him and Excalibur, they can reformulate your seasonings, and you buy them from Walton's, and we'll get you taken care of.
And just before we move on to the next thing, I do want to point out again that was 4 companies in the United States of America that control 80% of the beef production.
The last thing there? Oh, do you have more?
That's a problem. No.
So the last thing is, as I was looking up these things, because you kind of had these two like merged into one. So I was looking at them like, I don't think that's right. Because you had something about beef with chicken. And I'm like, it's not really that. That's a chicken producer? No, that's a beef producer. So I was looking it up, and I actually found a bunch of old articles from these same 4 companies from like a year ago, from another year ago. Like, it's not just now. This has been a thing for the last several years. They keep getting lawsuits for antitrust. The last one was like April sometime 2019, where the Cattlemen's Association of America or whatever sued them for the same thing, and that one's still being litigated. And we got this new one. So this is nothing new. These 4 producers have been in litigation for a while, and the way it's going, I'm going to assume they're going to stay in litigation for a while.
If you have the opportunity to buy the protein on the hoof locally and have it processed locally, you're always going to be better off.
Yeah.
Got to have a freezer. Got to have storage space, but you have much more better control over the products you have and the quality of the products you have.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, better for the economy, better for the environment, better for your plate. It's a better finished product.
I really appreciate you guys inviting me to the palatial studios of Meatgistics. I mean, it's rare that a commoner gets invited into these areas, but I will have to say, I am sorely pissed that we're not outdoors like we were supposed to be, because the gods of nicotine were promised to me, and now they're denied. There are few things on earth as good company, as good beer, and good cigars. And you have denied me 33.3% of these.
But we did give you good meat, so we added some back to that. Yes, it's Willie's and not your favorite, but they're gone.
30%.
Okay, they're gone. And it's 100 degrees outside.
Yeah, and I love it. Every degree of it.
Oh,
Lizard on a flat rock, brothers.
There'd be nothing left of us. We'd both be puddles, sweaty.
I would literally melt.
Miserable.
I can drink hot coffee and smoke a cigar in 100-degree temperature and just be as happy as can be.
I could be happy smoking a cigar in hot, humid, but the only thing I'll be happy about is the fact that I'm smoking a cigar, not the hot and humidity. Oh, hate it. You, before we started, or at one of the breaks, started talking about something you were planning on making.
What we're going to do now is segue into a session called On the Meat Block. I have two projects. One is if I can talk my brother-in-law into coughing up a belly, I'm going to take a fresh belly and barbecue it. I love rendering down a belly just to its purest accent. And I love it. It's great. The meat is so tender. You can put different flavorings on it. My next project is a little more ambitious. I found an old formula from a German Würstchenmeister, but it involves making bacon bologna. And I really, really want to put this project on the plate where you take a bacon, you pump it, cure it, but you don't cook it. And then you emulsify it into a pork block and you make bologna out of it. Then you cook it. So you'll actually be curing and cooking that bacon within the emulsification.
Okay.
It just sounds dreamy.
It does.
If it says bacon, I'm in. Like any other words before, after it,
Yeah.
I'm still in.
Sure. But we touched on this real quick, but that's a lot of math if you want to do it correctly.
It's a ton of math if you want to do it correctly, but you have the nitrites in the cured bacon, you have the salt in the cured bacon, you have the fat in the cured bacon. I believe in the old days, they didn't give a crap about the science. And I'm not going to worry too much about it.
Okay.
This is not going to be my wife's bologna. It's going to have every bit of fat in it I can possibly put in it. It just sounds so cool.
So the fat, I would think, would be by far the easiest part of that to figure out. The ingoing nitrites is what you're going to, or anyone I think would struggle with.
Once you figure out the weight of the bacon and then the weight of your other additional meat block,
Okay.
actually fat's going to be the hardest part because you figure a bacon's 30% lean,
Okay.
you hope, and then you really got to trim your pork down. And so you take your trimmed pork. Well, now you've got 70% fat in the bacon. So you got to measure that. Okay, so I have a 12-pound bacon. It's 70% fat. I'm an English major. Someone else do the math. And then you have how much lean do you have to add to get that 30% of your 12-pound bacon to 30%, and then 30% back into that.
Which I would still argue is easier than figuring out what 120 parts per million of that ingoing nitrates are, and then working that.
You're laboring under the conception that I give a crap what my ingoing parts per million of nitrites are. Nitrites don't kill you. My lovely wife makes me eat so sticky many vegetables. I guarantee you I eat more damn nitrates than I'll ever get in bacon.
That is very true.
We've covered that in the past on here too. Yeah. People who are,
yeah, go ahead.
You shouldn't eat so much bacon. It's bad. I'm like, oh yeah. Do you eat a lot of root vegetables? Then you eat a lot more nitrites than the average American does with their bacon heavy diet.
We've talked about that. We need to have a nitrite and nitrate episode only. Like just talking about that and how people are changing to like the no nitrite added, like uncured this and that. And it's like, well, are you eating vegetables? You're eating the same thing.
I put beet powder in my protein shakes. I've got more parts per million nitrite in my protein shakes than you'll ever get in a pound of bacon.
Yeah.
So what are you doing that for? Like a nitric oxide boost?
Just doing it because it's good for you.
So let me tell you what you're doing that for.
Nitrites are good for you.
Sure. Yeah. You're doing that for a nitric oxide boost in your blood. Yeah, that's good for you. So my meat on the meat block is something that a combination of two things we've done somewhat recently. Supreme Pizza Bratwurst Seasoning. Take ghost pepper, mozzarella, cheddar, and hot pepper cheese, the high temp cheese. Melt them until they're all one block in a pan. Let it cool, cut them back up into little chunks. Stuff that with pork, but also grind up pepperoni as we're doing that.
Oh.
Because I've done both of those things individually and they were both just unbelievable. But all of that together,
I don't think the world is ready to handle that, John, because I honestly will say those are two of the best sausages that you've made.
Yeah.
And if you combine those two processes, like I don't think the world is ready. I think we might need to trademark, copyright, patent.
Something.
What else we got? Is there any other?
I don't think so.
Okay.
defend with nuclear bombs, the code? I don't know.
Well, I've been building one in my basement. Is that okay?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
You should be able to do that.
Okay. We're good then.
So that's what I've got next on the project.
I'm going to be very disappointing because these two guys have thrown out some things that are very cool sounding. My biggest project is going to be to defrost some hamburger meat this weekend and cook some hamburger patties. That's all I have on my agenda.
Whoa.
Wow.
Look
You could
down,
tell which one of us has a young child.
Look down on the little people of the world and laugh at them from your high mountain of Meatgistics.
We've got one guy who doesn't have kids, but you have a couple dogs that are pretty much kids.
And they take up enough time.
You've got Kurt who still has kids, but they're getting older. Most of them are out of the house, and he doesn't have as much for kids there going on. But I've got a 16-month-old that I'm still fighting the changes in life that come with that. And so I'm happy to make hamburgers this weekend. So,
But with the three of us at home, we figured out that I cooked 25 pounds of meat last weekend.
dang, that's insane.
Did you have other people over?
Freezer meat.
Oh,
Because with our schedules, if we'll cook all the meat for the month, freeze it, vac pack it,
Fair
and
enough.
freeze it. Everything's vac packed, and we freeze it, and then pull it out as we need it. It's instant meal.
Yeah, my wife and I, we do that when we can anyways. Like we try to cook whatever type of meat and then just throw it in a vacuum pouch, freeze it, and when we're ready, I mean, you just have to heat it up. It's amazing.
Do the math. 25 pounds of meat, beer and cigars. It was a great Saturday.
Ooh, I think I need to do this more often for me.
yeah. Meal prepping on the weekend. I mean, that's half of my wife and my Sunday.
Really?
It's about what we do, but it makes the rest of the week so easy. Just like, you know what you're having, it's ready, and you made it yourself, so you want to eat it. So
The other way you know what you're going to have and you're happy with it and it's ready to eat is just to pull that Totino's pizza out of the fridge and just throw that on. I actually have
so disappointing.
I have a new pizza cooker that is I don't even have to heat up the oven, which is great this time of year, but it has like a heating element.
So it's the round
and then
thing.
and then it spins.
I saw
It
that
is so
like,
amazing.
a year ago, and I thought of you.
It's the best cook. It's not just good for pizza though. We cook a lot of like tater tots, making like a breakfast casserole thing. We put the tater tots on that. Like anything you're gonna heat up, you would use an oven for. You got to use this.
How
for.
hot does
It's
it get
amazing.
underneath that one little section?
It does not say. It just has a timer. You just turn it on and you say upper, lower, or dual. So I just do dual, and
Because you figure both are better than
yeah.
one or the other. Sure.
but it pretty much hits like right on the spot for like anything that says use the oven for this many minutes. Yeah, it's good.
Same thing.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Interesting.
You need one.
Nah.
You need one.
I don't need a lot of frozen pizza.
We don't eat
Do you cook anything?
Do I cook anything?
Yeah, it's good for cooking anything.
Yeah. I would say that I almost never eat out or eat like I cook everything, I would say, for the most part. Is that accurate? Yeah, that's accurate.
Then you need one.
That's what the convection oven's for.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that heats up like the whole house and
No, it
everything.
doesn't.
And
It's this big. It's in the laundry room, and it goes ding, and you're done. And
oh, you got like a portable one.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Like an air fryer?
Oh no, it's just
Mhm.
the big black oven that my lovely
Like-
wife told me to buy it. The queen said buy it. I put it in the laundry room, and it goes.
This is a
ding.
convection oven.
Oh
Yeah.
no, this one's this big.
Huh.
Air goes through it. It gets hot and cooks everything nicely.
Pretty much an air fryer, maybe just bigger.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah. I like the air fryer too.
but it does great
Yeah, but-
things.
Oh.
It makes incredible food. Well, the queen does, but it's through that medium.
All right, so for customer questions, this week we've got Gerald Trujillo. He's made some cured salami and he's vacuum sealed it. It's dried, and he's wondering whether or not it's safe to ship in like Arizona weather. So our answer is going to be dependent upon what you have available to you at your house. Here at Walton's, we've got a pH meter and we've got a water activity meter. Almost nobody at home has those. if you do have those, then you can measure the water activity and the pH. And if you're within a safe range of those, you'd be okay. But
I consulted a friend of mine who ships across the United States all year long, salamis, summer sausages, hams, bacons. His exact response was, if the pH and the water activity are not exactly within tolerance, freeze it, pack it nice, and ship it. He said the variances are slight, and you'll either wind up with mold or a nasty diet plan.
Kurt, can you expand on what is the nasty diet plan?
The nasty diet plan is when you have lots of reading materials
On a porcelain throne?
on a porcelain throne.
yeah, if you can't verify that your meat is going to be shelf stable, do not send it to somebody, especially if they're a friend. You don't want to do that to somebody because A, they're going to look at you and think you don't know what you're doing. And B, it's not worth it. Yeah, it's expensive to freeze something, pack it in ice and ship it overnight. But if you really want that person to try it, it's what you got to do.
It was explained to me that if you don't want to spend the money on freezer packs and coolers, then spend the money, send it to a local state university that has a meat lab and have the meat tested. The variances are slight, and you may think you've reached everything you need to reach. Send it to the university. They can run a test on it and tell you what your water activity and your pH are. However, if your standards are not repeatable, there's no guarantee your next batch is going to fall into the same.
Or even every sausage in your batch. I mean,
True.
Slight differences in airflow might mess you up.
If you were in a commercial smokehouse that had the proper airflow and everything is cooked evenly, it'd be one thing. But some of the home smokers out there, they don't cook things super evenly. But you would still be better off sending to your university meat extension office. And I think that's probably one of the hidden secrets out there is that if you have questions about things, one, ask us. Like, we're here for you guys to answer what we can, but there are some things that we won't answer, like this question, entirely because we don't really want to and can't for a liability reason. But you can send some product to your meat extension office. Please talk to them first. Don't just send it. But some of those guys, they can do things because they are run by your state government. They do things for the general public that you can get some information out of them that you wouldn't think maybe you would.
And you've heard the tired phrase that it's not rocket science. And the cool thing is, reading some of the things the Meatgistics people have put on the plate are absolutely incredible. But there's a huge difference between putting something on the plate for the person in front of you and shipping it.
Yeah.
And that's where the science comes into play. So yeah, there's a lot of science in this when you get to the commercial aspect of it. But for the guys making it at home, putting it on the plate, my gosh, what you're doing is fantastic. But if you're going to ship it and ship it to someone you care about, take the extra steps.
If you're shipping it to your enemy, make sure it's hot.
Do whatever you want.
Make sure it's
As warm
not
and wet
within
as you want.
tolerances, and just let it ride.
Cook it to 120.
Not suggested. Just saying. Just so we avoid
that's how
liability
you
here.
would
Do not
do
do
it.
that.
Yeah, it's we're gonna get it more into dry cured sausage, some dry cured meats here, but everything we're gonna give you is gonna be from like time, temperature, humidity in our Eller cabinet. We cannot give you how long you should keep it in your basement in November in Missouri. That's just not something that we're ever going to be able to give you. So you're going to have to figure those parts out on your own.
And one of the key words you said in that phraseology was temperature.
Oh.
And I am of the religion of the thermometer. And everybody who's cooking anything should have a thermometer in their hands and understand what the USDA guidelines are for meat temps. If you can understand Whole muscle's 145. They lowered pork, so pork's 145 now, so don't cook the shit out of it. If you understand that's the surface temperature, not the internal temperature, but always have a thermometer so you know where your temperatures are, 125 is where I pull my prime rib out.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is most of the bacteria, almost all the bacteria that we're going after, lives on the surface of the muscle, does not live inside the muscle. So when you've reached that, internally, you're absolutely fine externally.
And that's why ground meats have higher cooking temperatures than whole muscle meats.
That's where I was just going to ask Kurt, what would you do if you had a ground and reformed product, the most common example of hamburger? What are you going to do? Are you going to cook that to 125 like you would like a prime rib or steak?
I'm going to cook it to the USDA guideline recommended temperatures. However, there may be some that come off a little earlier.
It's one of those things where it's...
Most of my ground meat comes from my locker.
Yeah.
I know the guy that grinds it. I know the cows he buys. I would eat beef tartare from that locker because I trust the guidelines he's laboring under. Never on God's green earth would I buy any ground meat from a retail store and
Like
not
a
cook it to
Walmart or
165
Dillon's or-
degrees.
yeah. So it's one of those things where you can be totally fine 6 days of the week eating raw meat almost, but that seventh day, something's different and you get insanely sick over it. So that's one of the reasons that you should, in most circumstances, cook up to the USDA guidelines, is so that you take care of that one day of the week where something went wrong and you make sure that you kill any of those bacteria, pathogens, etc. But most of the time, it should be fine.
The adage we use in the industry is running the stop sign.
Yeah.
You can run a stop sign 7 days, 8 days, 9 days in a row, laugh and keep going. It's the one day that you run it and someone's come to the intersection that really sucks. Poultry, fish, and wild game, I don't mess with that. I'm always using a thermometer, especially ground poultry.
Yep.
What do you guys cook fish up to, though?
145.
145? Okay.
And I'm going to be grinding some fish, but I don't currently.
John.
I'm going to make a fish cold cut. I'm very excited about this.
We're using for fat.
I'm thinking cold phosphate and carrot fiber or some sort of binder instead of a fat.
You need Surgel. You need protein.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. But sorry, neither here nor there. I just have to kick that in there.
Let's revisit this
We're
after
coming
you do
back
it.
to after I do it, yes.
Yeah, and we may have to get Kurt back on because I'm pretty sure Kurt's going to have some more info on this, because this is probably a lot longer conversation than we have on the rest of the episode. We can't talk for an hour, but Kurt, what do you think? Like, first take on that?
I think it's great. I mean, if you get a salmon,
You're not helping me, Kurt.
No, I'm sorry, but if you get salmon, there's enough of that fat within the salmon that I think you can do an amazing thing with salmon. We ground and made a paste out of, I got to call my wife, some big ass fish in the ocean that looks like it's flat.
Tuna, swordfish.
No, it was so good. But I was so shocked when she started grinding, not a flounder, but I was so shocked when she started grinding it that it actually became a paste because there was enough fat in it that we were actually getting a little protein extraction out of it.
Huh.
Oh my gosh, it was so good.
Skate.
Oh, please. We're going to have to revisit this. I just remember it's a fish that looks like this. Its eyes are like this, and it's in the water.
Well, I'm going to let you two make that because I want no part of it. I want to taste test it to prove you guys wrong, but
I had a snack stick made out of salmon, out of Pacific salmon.
His dad wants me to make it. I still have salmon in there that I'm planning on doing. I just haven't done it yet.
yeah,
but they
was there
say that
something
they
else
say
added?
that you can do a lot more with cold water salmon. But I had a snack stick the customer made out of Pacific salmon. And I'm like, I don't know anything about water. I would have thought the Atlantic was colder than the Pacific, but he explained to me it has to do with north and south and where you're at on it. But the snack stick was very well made. The construction was tight. The flavor was just amazing.
Was there still a hoofed animal in there for fat or protein, though?
You mean like a centaur? Or
Sure. Something that is like beef protein, something stronger. I have a hard time visualizing that you can take any type of fish and actually get it to behave like a land animal protein would.
I don't know the science behind what they did to make it. I know it was a skinless snack stick.
Okay.
But it was really, man, it was all fish. There was never a doubt in your mind that you weren't chewing through a piece of salmon.
You have just like set John off, and like he's got lights going off and he's like ears are ringing. He's jumping for joy to just tell him that, yeah, he needs to do this now.
We have
Do you think Walton's would buy me a plane ticket up to?
No.
We have a customer who makes a salmon treat. It's a salmon bite. And I thought I shared some of that with you in the Rockies.
You probably did, but do you remember what we do in the Rockies?
I understand. But
We
this
drink
guy,
a lot of beer, and I also kind of injured myself last time. So there's a lot of things that are fuzzy.
this guy makes a salmon bite that is close to a snack that they better serve in heaven, or I'll be sorely disappointed. It is so good.
Well, we will try to get that recipe or how you make that from you, and we will come back in a later episode and at least try to recreate that. Guys, thanks so much for hanging with us. Kurt, thank you very much for being here.
Certainly
You were
welcome.
A great guest.
We're never going to have you back again.
And that's something I could live with.
No, I'm kidding. We're going to have you back because, yeah, we enjoy this. So thank you for coming in. We appreciate
Outside with a cigar, I'm in 100%.
In the fall or when it's cooler
it.
out.
Yes, please, when it's cooler.
Cooler.
Thank you guys very much for having me on.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.